If you are currently serving in or have served in the military, the National Guard, or the Reserve, it's important to know that you may have VA home loan benefits, which are really important to vet and understand before you start the home buying process. First, I just want to add that we love VA home loans and helping our community of veterans and those that are currently actively serving. It's our little way of giving back to you, so thank you for your efforts, and let's dive into this VA home loan benefit. All right. So, there's a lot to know about VA home loans. First, who is eligible for a VA home loan? This is such a great question. And there's a couple of ways for one to find out if you are in fact eligible. So again, if you've served in the military, the National Guard, or the Reserves, and you have served long enough based on the criteria, then you may be eligible. If you would like to research your eligibility on your own, you can go to va.gov and do that. Otherwise, when working with a lender, many times we can go to the VA system and check on your behalf. So if you are no longer in the military, we might be looking for your DD-214. If you served in the Reserves or the National Guard, we might be asking you for a point statement, or just simply with your Social Security number and your legal name that you served under. That might be something that the lender can access your certificate of eligibility. But be clear, that's what we're looking for, and that's what you're looking for. Do you have your certificate of eligibility? Because that's going to tell you what your VA home loan benefits are. Boom. All right, now on to the next thing. Credit score requirements. I see all kinds of stuff out there on the internet. VA doesn't have a stated minimum credit score. Let me say that again. VA does not have a stated minimum credit score. However, many lenders will impose their own kind of what we call an overlay in the mortgage lending business, meaning that they may say, you know what, our minimum credit score for this type of loan program might be a 580 or a 600. So just kind of know that every lender might have a different position on this, but the most important thing when you think about VA home lending guidelines is going to be, do you meet them? And VA is going to be very focused on the residual income after the housing expense, and that's everything that's included in that housing expense together with other living expenses. So this debt to income ratio that many lenders use, and certainly most loan programs are focused on debt to income ratio. With VA, it's a little bit different. It's really this residual income. How many dollars do you have after everything is spent a month based on the new house payment, the new house projections, and your current debt load? So just kind of be thinking about that. Now, when we're sending through the automated underwriting systems as a lender, those systems are going to calculate debt to income ratio, which is fine. And many times that's what's going to drive the approvability. But we are still going to look at that residual income if it's a VA home loan, because that is what the VA is requiring lenders to do. Hopefully that helps. How about loan limits? This is another one that I just want to dispel the myth, because I see all kinds of things out there. Now keep in mind, VA removed kind of this maximum loan limit back in 2020, which means that if you have VA home loan benefits and you have full eligibility, meaning that none of your eligibility is currently encumbered with another VA home loan, you could in effect purchase, let's say, a $2 million house. Oh my gosh, let's think about this. You could purchase a $2 million house, potentially, as long as you can qualify, with zero down and no mortgage insurance. I mean, it is by far the best, what we would call jumbo home loan program out there. There is nothing else out there that even competes with a VA jumbo loan limit type of scenario. So just kind of keep in mind, every lender is going to have their own maximum on what they're going to lend. Ours happens to be $2 million on VA loans, so that would be the maximum. But in my scenario, if you have VA benefits, it is absolutely something to consider if you're looking to purchase. Could be your next property, could be your first property. Many times in that price point, it's kind of the second or third or fourth property downstream. As long as you have full eligibility, you could consider using that without having to put any money down. All right, let's think about multiple properties. Now, I also see this happen quite often where many times people or lenders might say, you can only have one VA home loan at a time. Not the case. If you are in a situation where maybe you live in Phoenix, Arizona, and maybe you're active military and you're relocating to Texas based on your orders, and you own a home in Phoenix, in that case, if it is with a VA home loan, You can rent that home out. Now your certificate of eligibility will have an encumbrance on it. So the lender is now going to go in and look at, okay, what is left on the VA eligibility? Can that person put 0 down going forward, or do they have to put some money down? And all of that's going to be based on the formula. So lenders have a certain formula that the VA provides. We're going to take it, we're going to plug in the information based on that certificate and how much is encumbered, how much is left, and then the lender is going to be able to tell you, here's what it looks like from a price point standpoint, and if in fact you would have to put money down or not. So kind of think that through. You can have more than one VA home loan. Remember, VA is always going to be lending the money to you based on a primary residence though. So you're not using a VA home loan to purchase a second home, a vacation home, or an investment property. But the confusion comes with if you own a home now and it was or is your primary residence, but you are having to move for a reason, it doesn't mean that you have to sell that house to reinstate all of your full eligibility. So just really talking to a lender that understands VA and kind of diving deep into the details is going to be really key for you. Okay, now what about this? And this is hot right now because we have many people that purchased a home or maybe refinanced a home when interest rates were at the low point of history, I'll say, at least recent history. We'll call it the last 100 years. Okay, anyway, if you currently have a VA home loan and let's say that interest rate is 3%, and you want to sell your house. The current market rates are higher than 3%. But the cool thing about a VA home loan is that VA home loans are assumable. And again, if you're out there searching, you're going to see all kinds of misinformation. Understand that anybody can assume a VA home loan. Let me say that again. Anybody that can qualify, they have to go through qualifiers, can assume a VA home loan. So they could effectively assume that 3% interest rate. But here's the catch. If you as a seller and you as somebody that has the VA home loan benefit, if you let somebody that doesn't have VA home loan benefit eligibility themselves assume your VA home loan, then you no longer have your full benefit if in fact you want to use your VA home loan benefits in the future. Because when somebody that's assuming your house is assuming that's an encumbrance on your certificate, unless they have VA benefits themselves. So sometimes, sellers are like, look, I'm gonna go live with my kids, or I'm gonna go into a retirement home, or I'm going to rent, or whatever that looks like in their lives, and they don't really care about having that future VA home loan benefit, then that could be something to consider as far as listing your house and looking for somebody that might want to assume your home loan. Now, if that buyer does have VA home loan benefits, the cool thing is they could still assume that 3% interest rate or whatever that low rate is that you have, and then the eligibility converts over to their certificate of eligibility and frees yours up as the seller for future purchases. So it's kind of cool and something that not a lot of people know. A few other things to keep in mind. If somebody is assuming your VA home loan, think about what the balance is on that loan. That's what they're assuming versus the purchase price or the list price of your house. So let's say that you owe $300,000 at a 3% interest rate on your current VA home loan. And maybe you purchased that house, 3-4 years ago. And let's say now that house is worth $600,000. Well, in that scenario, if somebody's going to pay $600,000, but the VA home loan is only at $300,000, then they would have to come into closing with that differential between the list price and the balance on the loan that will be assumed. That's kind of the catch, because not everybody has just $300,000 in that scenario sitting around. But if they do, whether they have VA home loan benefits or not, and they're curious about assuming that interest rate, it could be a really great option to explore. But just know the facts. And again, talking with a lender that really understands VA home loans is going to be a key. No matter if you're a seller that has a great rate that wants to sell as an assumable rate, contact your servicer, kind of better understand what your options are and how it looks. Or if you have a buyer that wants to assume that great rate, or you just have a buyer that wants to purchase using a VA home loan, working with a lender that understands the details is, I promise you, the key to success. All right, let's continue. Another key feature of a VA home loan is the no down payment with no mortgage insurance. It is unlike any other home loan program in the country. And the benefit is huge. And honestly, it should be. I mean, these are people that have served this country, and they deserve, and you all deserve to have a benefit. And that's what this is about. That's why the VA home loan exists, to create home ownership for our veterans and those that are currently serving in the military, the National Guard, or the Reserve. So take advantage of it. Again, there are no other programs out there that effectively would allow a no down payment with no mortgage insurance. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't exist with mainstream financing. So definitely something to explore. Now, why would you not want to use a VA home loan? Or why would your real estate agent be telling you, hey, maybe explore a conventional home loan? Here's why. There is a perception with regard to the appraisal process that some listing agents or some sellers don't want to entertain buyers that are using a VA home loan. Now, I've had plenty of these conversations, trust me, trying to educate listing agents so they can share this with their sellers. But from a lending standpoint, VA home loans are very flexible. The underwriting guidelines, the process, obviously the lack of credit score, there's so many benefits to it. But the difference truly is the appraisal process. And this is what freaks listing agents out. The appraisal process on VA is unique in the sense that the lender is going into the VA portal and ordering the appraisal through the VA portal, and the VA assigns the appraiser. And the VA guidelines are very focused on protection of the consumer, or in this case, the veteran or the person that's purchasing the house. So they want to be sure that that house meets health and safety criteria. And the process itself is really going to be driven by the VA. So these are VA approved appraisers. Now, if you talk to them, many times they will say the comparables that are used between a VA home loan and a conventional home loan really aren't different, but the perception comes down to the listing agent. And a lot of times they think that VA appraisal process is more stringent. Well, if the property needs love and it's like not meeting health and safety issues, it could be a problem for a VA home loan or the VA home appraisal process. There is one really cool thing about the VA appraisal process, though, that many people don't realize, and it is something that's called Tidewater, which means that it's truly the only home lending appraisal process that says, okay, based on this purchase contract, based on the comparables that the appraiser is looking at, the appraiser says, gosh, I don't see that this house is going to appraise at that purchase price. So they enact what's called Tidewater. They will reach back out to the lender that ordered the appraisal, and they will say, hey, reach out to the real estate agents and ask them to provide comparables on what might support this purchase price or contracted agreement of price. And that's kind of cool. So it allows 24 to 48 hours for the lender to come back to the real estate agents and say, hey, do you have any comps that support the price of this purchase contract? Then the lender takes those, gets them back to the VA appraiser, and many times maybe that there was something that the real estate agent was aware of, is a closed comparable that the VA appraiser missed or didn't see, or maybe it wasn't in the local MLS. So it's just a great kind of a feature that is on VA home loans. And that again goes back to, if the appraiser, based on the research they've done before the appraisal is completed, if they see that the house or that the appraisal is not going to meet the purchase price or exceed it, then they can stop the process, enact Tidewater, and allow for a little more time to allow the real estate agents to give additional information before that appraisal is finalized. So to continue the thought, if you have a real estate agent, let's say, that's saying, hey, instead of VA, you might want to consider conventional. That's why. It could be that the seller of the home that you're interested in is not even accepting VA home loans. So conventional might be the counter or the option to allow for you to compete on the house that you ultimately want. Now, many sellers across the country are open to VA financing, and I don't want to discourage you from using it. I just want you to kind of know, if you hear that or you're looking at a listing and it isn't listing VA as an option, that could be why. All right, lastly, I really want to dive into this because there's so much confusion about funding fee. So I mentioned earlier that VA is a no down payment loan and does not have mortgage insurance, and that is correct. However, VA does have something very unique to the VA, and that is going to be a funding fee, which essentially says that under certain criteria, the VA is going to charge a fee to use the loan program. And if you have a service-connected disability, VA waives the funding fee. So in that case, it could be no down payment, no mortgage insurance, and no funding fee in that scenario. However, if you do not have a service-connected disability, the VA is going to surcharge or charge this funding fee. The cool thing is, it is rolled into the loan, so it's not cash out of pocket, which allows you to essentially finance the funding fee. And the cost of the funding fee is going to be driven based on whether it's first-time use, so meaning that you are a first-time home buyer, or maybe you're not a first-time home buyer, it's just the first time you're using your VA home loan benefit. So in that scenario, it is going to be a specific dollar amount. But if you've used your VA home loan benefits in the past and you do not have a service-connected disability and you want to put no down in the future, then that funding fee will be a little bit more expensive. So working with a lender that can kind of walk through your scenario and tell you, one, do you have a funding fee? And two, if you do, how much is it based on your scenario, and then how that impacts your total loan amount or funds borrowed. If you have VA home loan benefits, or you've served in the military, the National Guard, or the Reserves, and are wondering if you have VA home loan benefits, working with an experienced home lender that truly understands that particular loan program is going to be a key here. Should you have any questions or you just want to run some numbers, you can click the link below to schedule your personalized consultation with the KellyZtilowGroup Mortgage Advisor today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your service. We appreciate all you have done for not only this country, but for us and our families. We'd love the opportunity to help you better explore your VA home loan benefits. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for the next video on VA home loans compared to conventional conforming home loans.